Hello, welcome. So, Wreckfest had a new update fairly recently where they added to single player, well, to tournaments, snow tracks. They're pretty damn fun. If you haven't yet, you should give them a go. They also made a couple of changes to AI, and they improved the Speedy's first gear. Yeah, it's been a pretty decent update. They also added the Star Beast SS, which I'll be making a video on when I get it. I still need to grind it out. So, let's get started. This is Driving in the Snow 101, Snow Racing in Wreckfest. I haven't decided what I'm calling it yet. Okay then, so we'll start with the difficulty settings. I have manual with clutch on. I learned manual with clutch quite early on in my driving and in Wreckfest, and it's just better. It's better in every way. If you're considering learning manual with clutch, I would recommend doing so now. The earlier that you start driving with manual with clutch, the sooner you'll get used to it. It's not something that you're just gonna hear someone say what to do and you'll just suddenly know how to do it perfectly. You need to practice with it. My ABS is set to half. I don't recommend full ABS because not having the wheels lock up at all will give you far greater braking distances, and having no ABS will cause the wheels to lock up immediately. If you're on a keyboard or something, that could be a problem. You could run it not full if you have control modulation for braking, like triggers. I do have triggers on my controller, but I have a really cheap and shit controller. That means that I don't get any modulating. You'll actually see that in a bit, because I go into the settings to show that I don't. My traction control is turned off. You could turn it on to half, really. If you're just looking to complete the races as quickly as possible, I would recommend having it half, because that way you won't be sliding out and you should be able to keep up with the cars so long as you're not going into every corner completely sideways. For dealing with traction control, as you come into a corner and you begin to slide, listen for as your angle towards the corner gets steeper, listen for the engine beginning to bog down. That's actually traction control slowing the engine RPM down to try and maintain traction. Then if you hear the engine doing that, you want to turn out into the outside of the corner a little bit more. Stability control, although I would recommend normally leaving it off for snow tracks especially. I've got another video coming out at some point soon where I'm going to break down traction control and if it's usable or not, and if it's viable, and also ABS and also tuning. Anyway, stability control. I have it set to half. You could set it to full, and I would actually recommend, if you're just looking to complete the races, setting it to full. Full stability control, you don't really lose control as... what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, you don't lose as much input control as you would think. Often players will refuse to change their stability control setting because they're used to it on half, but your car maintains a straighter line more easily with full stability control. That being said, on snow, you're not maintaining a straight line anyway, so it doesn't really matter. That's why I have it to half. I wouldn't recommend turning it off unless you have a steering wheel, because the loss of control is significant. For my tuning, I'm running 4352. The numbers relate from top to bottom, 1 being on the left, 5 being on the right. The reason I'm running this tuning setup is the track that we're on now is quite a bumpy one. I forget what it's called. Dry Town, I think. I don't remember. Whatever. It's quite a bumpy track, so the extra suspension will keep my wheels in contact with the ground more. That's going to be a lot better for being able to input controls, because there will be an input lag with the loss of traction that I'm going to be getting on the snowy surface. My gear ratio is set to 5, although I don't think I actually go over gear 3. The reason that I've done this is because a wheel spin on snow is important to control. Having low revs will mean your wheels don't spin so easily, and that will mean that you are maintaining traction, your acceleration will be better, even though your revs will be lower. Your higher revs may continue to spin your wheels, and if you're just non-stop spinning your wheels, you're not going to be getting that acceleration down efficiently. My differential is locked because I always run a lock differential. You should always run a lock differential, and if you don't run a lock differential, then you're in an A-class car or wrong. Brake balance is set to the rear. Now, my brake balance, I change this from track to track sometimes. On a full tarmac track, I will actually run 4. I know what you're thinking before you go into the comments going, 4 brake balance, you're an idiot. For straight tarmac tracks, it gives you far better control when you're braking into a corner if you miss your braking points. And yes, I'm referring to braking points in Wreckfest. If you want to cry about that, then you're an idiot. It's a racing game, and well, ultimately you win races by going quickly, whether you're wrecking people or not. So we're going to be running 2 brake balance, and we're going to do that because rather than 1, because that way we will, if we put the brakes on, we won't just straighten up when we put the brakes on. What I mean by that is, if your braking point is at the rear, your rear only at the rear, your front wheels don't get any braking at all, and that braking will act as a pivot for your car, so you'll start to straighten up a bit. That's good for coming into some corners, but on snowy tracks where you want to be able to put the brakes on and maintain a line, you'll struggle with having your brake bias fully rear. You'll have to steer into it, and as you'll see, if you don't accelerate and you just turn and you're not braking, you just understeer. It's quite rough to deal with, but this is what I find works best for me. Also, the 2 brake bias, it's just, I run that on literally all of my cars, on any track that isn't straight tarmac. I'm used to it, and I'm used to the way that it controls. Immediately you'll see I turn right and head for the middle of the track. My intention is to spin out the car in front of me, which will, if all goes well, hit the cars on my right-hand side, giving me a bit of room to turn right into the next corner. It'll also get these AI out the way because they are extraordinarily aggressive, and they'll just willingly fuck themselves over and rip themselves off the track to to crash you out. They make backmarkers, players who you lap, look intelligent. So, the car in front of me, the Firefly, to my left, he's on the far inside of the corner, and this snow has far less traction, so I know that he's going to slow down a hell of a lot in order to get around the corner. It's an AI, they're not a player, they don't fall short of the regular player problems of lack of foresight, shall we say. Yeah, so I know he's going to have to brake a lot, so I should be able to cut inside of him. He's also going to be going much slower, and I'm in the correct position on the track, so I should pass him very quickly. Coming into this corner, we're going to shift down. This will give us more revs, and it'll get us wheels spinning a bit more efficiently. Then we can shift up, which will give us slightly better acceleration. Coming out of the corner. You'll notice that we steered in a little bit too much. That wasn't really due to input, that was more due to just the excessive lack of grippiness that you get with snow, and we started to spin out, and I didn't quite counter it fast enough. Anyway, coming into this next corner, we're going to shift down, which will get our revs higher, which will maintain our acceleration, and will keep our wheels spinning at a consistent rate, so we should go around the corner faster. This is the first lap, so I'm not entirely sure what's going to work best. Coming out of that last corner, what we do is we shift down preemptively, keeping our revs high through the corner. With the higher revs, the maxed out revs, the wheels aren't going to spin faster, so the controlling of the car is going to remain consistent. You'll see that I start to do this a lot more because I find that it works really quite well for me. I then shift up as we come out of the corner onto the tarmac, because that will give us, in theory, the tarmac will be grippier. Also notice how the people to the left have snow on their heads, at least the ones that aren't clapping and moving around. They must have been standing there for a really long time. We go into the settings and you can see that I don't have any throttle modulation. Notice how coming into this first corner, we power slide pointing the direction that we want to be going, and then we will accelerate while keeping the car pointing in the direction that we want to be going. This typically wouldn't work on a normal track because you have too much grip. However, on this track, in the snow, we don't have the grip, so this kind of stuff works a lot more easily. We didn't really do anything noteworthy in that second lap. Coming into the last corner, though, we try something slightly different. What we're going to do is we're going to handbrake and turn ourselves pretty much 180 degrees before we get around the corner. Then we're going to start accelerating, hopefully going in the correct direction. I tried this a couple of times before this race that I had recorded and it hadn't worked. The fact that it worked this time was either luck or good judgment, I don't know. I also spot a car seemingly heading backwards down the track. I know he's not going backwards down the track, or at least he's not trying to. He's probably just driving around in circles trying to get back in the right direction. The AI is not particularly intelligent in this game, if you hadn't noticed. We're going to try and get past him as safely as possible. Coming out of that corner we just went around, I shifted up to give myself more traction and a little bit more torque so we'd start accelerating better. Coming into the next corner though, you'll spot that we start to turn without accelerating and we begin to understeer. So now I know not to do that anymore. This also messes up my line for the next corner. Sure enough, we hit the wall like I was expecting. We turn way far into the corner so that when we clip the corner, it'll have as little of an effect as possible on the car. Lap times don't really matter. It's the tournament, and I'm in first place for this event. All we need to do is get first place, so we just need to not crash. I know I'm a faster driver than the AI is, and I'm miles ahead anyway, so we should be okay. Hindsight is 2020, but we may have been able to continue turning around the corner rather than handbrake turn, and it might have gotten us around, but with the speed that I was going at, I think I might have just understeered and crashed anyway. You may have noticed how we're heavily wrestling with the gears, far more than we would normally do while driving on dirt or tarmac tracks. This is just to keep as consistent of a line as possible. I find that that's working best for me, as you can see. It certainly seems to be. I also notice a car at this point straight ahead to our front. I don't know which direction he's going to be heading particularly, so we're going to have to act on the ball to figure out where he's going. Ideally, I want to be on his left-hand side, but I can't see where he's steering, and I've not been able to see him for long, so I still don't know. I decided to commit and try and pass him on the inside. However, he's done a spin, and he's now going to cut straight across me, so we're probably going to hit him. We should have gone outside of him in hindsight, but, well, I didn't know what to do at the time. Our back left wheel gets hooked in the little ditch on the left side of the track here. This puts our line off a little bit, but we want to be sticking on the outside of the track for a little while longer anyway, until we can get closer to the apex of the corner. It didn't really work out in our favour as much as I wanted it to. We went wider than I was hoping. We come around the corner and there's a car going in circles again. I know that we're going to be fine with this one because he's steering hard right and he's on our left-hand side facing towards us, so he's not going to be a problem. So then, what's the takeaway from all of this? Well, cornering in the snow can be simplified into 4 different categories. Setup, handbrake, angle, power. We're going to come into the corner from the outside, braking slightly in order not to overshoot the corner, but not so early that we're going to crash into the corner. We're then going to handbrake turn into the corner and shift down into a gear that will max out your engine RPM to give you the most consistent wheel spinning rate, which will give you the most consistent control in the corner. This is situational, but it's often worth doing. We're then going to turn in or out of the corner as is necessary. You can tell this by looking at the angle your car is going at and where you will be on the other side of the corner. I'm going to use lap 2, corner 4 to show you. Spot here how I'm on the outside of the track, setting up my angle as I go into the corner. I'm going to handbrake, shift down and turn in, counter-steering slightly to miss hitting the wall on the inside. My angle is set up now and I need to maintain it, so I'll accelerate. The second the front of my car is in front of the apex of the corner, I'm going to turn in a bit more and continue accelerating. In this example, I was going in slightly slow, so I accelerate earlier while turning left to maintain the angle I have, which is already a good angle. As we come out of the corner, I'm going to keep the car rotating around until we're pointing in the correct direction for the next corner. Well, I hope you found this useful. Certainly a lot of fun making it. I'll replay the race as I always do in its entirety. I've cut out the section where I'm in the options for a second. Go back and watch the video if you want to have a look at that. That being said, yeah, thank you for watching.